Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. The Israeli military finds dozens of weapons at a Gaza building used by the UN Relief Agency for Palestinians. What else they found? The European Commission accuses social media platform X of breaching online content rules. How Elon Musk responds to the allegations. The manslaughter trial of actor Alec Baldwin is put on pause. Why the judge says they put the case on hold. 20 nations or air forces are gathered in Australia for 3 weeks of high-tech, high-intensity training. Tensions continue to rise with communist China in the South China Sea. A massive data breach impacting nearly all AT&T customers. What kind of data was stolen and what you can do to secure your account. At least 65 long-finned pilot whales die after getting beached off the north coast of Scotland. Video footage captures the tragedy. Is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, harboring Hamas terrorists in Gaza? Israel Defense Forces say they discovered a cache of weapons during a raid of the UNRWA headquarters in Gaza. They also found a nearby underground bomb-making lab.
Israeli military leaders said Friday that during the raid on the UNRWA compound, soldiers exchanged gunfire with Hamas terrorists inside the building. Troops also captured several members of Hamas trying to escape the UNRWA headquarters.
A lot of images of Hamas using this as a base to conduct attacks against IDF troops, as a base of holding weapons, and this is what called for us to conduct this counterterrorism operation.
The Israeli military had raided the compound earlier this year, where they found an underground tunnel network. The raid earlier this week netted dozens of weapons, machine guns, mortars, grenades, and explosive devices. The military said it also discovered a command and observation post and drones capable of dropping bombs. UNRWA serves Palestinians in Gaza with critical resources, such as humanitarian aid, education, and social services. The UN Secretary General voiced his support for the agency on Friday.
And my appeal to everyone is this: protect UNRWA, protect UNRWA's staff, and protect UNRWA's mandate, including through funding. And let me be clear, there is no alternative to UNRWA.
The Israeli military said the UN Relief Agency headquarters in Gaza hadn't been used in months.
And the European Commission says Elon Musk's social media company X breached the EU's online content rules. The announcement follows a 7-month investigation under the Digital Services Act. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
The Digital Services Act requires major online platforms and search engines to do more to tackle illegal content and risks to public safety. The Commission said X had failed to provide a searchable and reliable advertisement database. Regulators also alleged that the platform's verified accounts negatively affect users' ability to make free and informed decisions. X will have several months to respond to the charges.
If the response is not satisfactory, or if our preliminary analysis is confirmed, the Commission will then have the option of adopting, and this is what we will do if it is confirmed, a decision of non-compliance with the Digital Services Act, which could lead to financial penalties of up to 6% of the platform's annual worldwide turnover.
Musk claimed the European Commission offered the platform what he called an illegal secret deal. In a post on X, he alleged that the EU had demanded censorship on the platform or face a fine, and that X didn't accept the deal. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The manslaughter trial of actor Alec Baldwin was put on hold today. The judge in the case is looking at the defense's motion to dismiss over disputed evidence. Baldwin is accused in the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins in the set of the film Rust in 2021. Lawyers for the actor say the prosecution failed to disclose evidence about ammunition that might be related to the trial. The defense argues they do not know if the bullet that killed Hutchins is a match because prosecutors hid the evidence. The prosecution denied those claims. It says the ammo in question was not a part of the trial and they did not hide evidence of it. And almost 1 million people in Texas remain in the dark today after losing power when Hurricane Beryl hit the state Monday. Beryl knocked out power to almost 3 million homes and businesses in its path, according to utility provider CenterPoint Energy. The utility company says it's restored power to about 1.4 million of its customers. Another provider has restored power for about half of its 250,000 customers. The storm downed transmission lines and snapped branches that took out power lines. AT&T customers, beware. Your call and text records could be stolen in a massive data breach. The company says this impacts nearly all cell customers and wireless network customers.
In an SEC filing, AT&T said hackers gained unauthorized access to call logs stored on a third-party cloud platform. They compromised records from May to October 2022 and on January 2nd, 2023. The company said the hackers didn't steal personal information such as social security numbers, bank information, or dates of birth, so the risk of identity theft or fraud is low. But the hackers could still use the stolen data to force AT&T to pay ransom. The incident raises concerns about cybersecurity, given AT&T has 127 million connected devices. The company has taken steps to address the breach and will notify affected customers. Law enforcement has apprehended at least one person. AT&T said the data is not publicly available, but if you are a customer, you should update your password and monitor your AT&T account as well as your bank account for unusual activity.
Next, President Biden says he's the most qualified candidate to win the presidential election. He told reporters his administration has more to do and has to finish the job. The president held a highly anticipated press conference last night at the end of the 3-day NATO summit. He said calls for him to step down as the Democratic nominee are premature. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the president's commitment to stay in the race.
I'm in this to complete the job I started.
President Biden on Thursday reiterated his determination to win his re-election bid and said it was important that he alleviate fears.
I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide.
Biden told reporters he has no good reason to talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin right now. He talked about NATO strategies for China and Russia, a boost in defense spending from NATO allies, and military aid for Ukraine. The president also said he's taken 3 significant neurological exams, the last in February.
Every single day I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it.
Biden says the only thing age does is help create a little wisdom. He said none of his doctors are suggesting another neurological exam right now.
No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? Who'd you have?
The president spoke for just under an hour, calling on 10 reporters and answering about 20 questions. His last press conference was in November last year. Biden will campaign in Detroit today and in Texas and Nevada next week. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg says the Chinese regime is a decisive enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine. His statement came after NATO leaders made a joint declaration this week saying China is involved in the war.
The joint statement said the CCP's so-called no-limits partnership with Russia is enabling it to wage war. The statement called it large-scale support for Russia's defense industrial base. 32 NATO members approved the declaration at the summit in Washington this week. Stoltenberg says it's the first time all NATO allies have stated this so clearly. The Chinese regime started joint military exercises with Belarus during the NATO summit. The exercises are taking place just a few miles from the border of NATO member Poland. Stoltenberg says this confirms how authoritarian regimes are aligning more and more. The NATO chief also said it shows how China is coming closer to NATO in Europe Africa, and elsewhere. NATO says Beijing can't enable Russia's war without it negatively impacting its interests and reputation. NATO leaders say North Korea and Iran are fueling Russia's war with direct military support.
And President Biden has renewed Hong Kong's national emergency status, an executive order issued by the Trump administration in 2020. NTD's Sam Wang has more.
The policy sought to strip the city's special trade privileges after Beijing imposed a draconian national security law on the region. In a statement, Biden said China's recent actions fundamentally undermine Hong Kong's autonomy. He added the regime continues to pose an unusual threat to the U.S. In response, China vowed, quote, firm counterattacks if the U.S. proceeds with the order. Under the emergency status, no sensitive American technology is allowed to be exported to the city, and Hong Kong passports are treated just the same as Chinese ones.
When we come back, at least 65 long-finned pilot whales die after getting beached off the north coast of Scotland. Video footage captures the tragic scene. And Americans take on side hustles to make ends meet amid a cost of living crisis and persistent inflation. A consumer finance expert tells how many are turning to a hobby, passion, or second skill to supplement their income. That and more after the break.
The biggest Republican event of the year. 4 nights, thousands under one roof, officially nominating their candidate for president.
America's comeback starts right now.
Watch NTD's live special coverage with Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides 2024. Republican National Convention, 6 p.m. Eastern from July 15th through the 18th on NTD News.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
We are only 80 years removed from countries that killed 60 to 70 million people intentionally. And we have people being like, oh, it can't happen here. Yeah, it can, and it might.
These people, they're not interested in the facts. They're not interested in anything except crushing people that are in their way.
There needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members.
A strong church can stop this.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
The air forces of 20 countries from around the globe are gathering in Australia to kick off the 2024 exercise Pitch Black today. The Royal Australian Air Force is hosting the 3-week training event. NTD's Fiona G has more.
Good pala day, come long all country, come long Australia, long exercise Pitch Black.
Siamo entusiasti di lavorare con voi, di imparare gli uni dagli altri.
At para pagtibayin ang ating pagkakaibigan.
Held biennially, this year's Exercise Pitch Black will be the largest in the training event's 43-year history. According to Australian military officials, 20 nations are participating this year. There will be over 4,400 personnel and over 140 aircraft. The air forces will engage in mock combat scenarios using some of the most advanced fighting systems and technologies. Training will happen in the skies over Australia's largely uninhabited Northern Territory. The program is designed to strengthen international military relations and ensure participating nations are able to respond to security threats in the Indo-Pacific and further abroad. This is a year of many firsts for Exercise Pitch Black. The Philippines, Italy, Spain, and Papua New Guinea are participating for the first time. The Italian Navy is also bringing an aircraft carrier, the first time such a vessel is taking part in the exercise. This year also marks the first time since 1963 that the Philippines Air Force has had an overseas deployment. That's over 6 decades. The decision comes as Beijing ups its hostility in the South China Sea over territory disputes. The Philippines Air Force is hoping to improve its operational readiness and modernize its hardware in preparation for potential conflict. The U.S. first participated in the exercise in 1983, just 2 years after the program began. This year, the U.S. will bring 6 fighter jets to the event. The 2024 exercise Pitch Black runs July 12th through August 2nd. Fiona G., NTD News.
At least 65 long-finned pilot whales have died after they got stranded on an island off the north coast of Scotland. Video footage from the British Divers Marine Life Rescue showed 12 struggling to breathe in the shallow water.
So we did everything we could to assess them, the live ones, and see if they were viable for refloating. Unfortunately, a lot of them were already too wedged into the sand. The tide, we think they stranded overnight.
The lifeless bodies of the other whales lay spread out on the sand. Whales can get beached for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the mammals lose their way or get trapped by tides. Pilot whales have close social bonds. When one member of a pod gets into trouble, others often follow them, resulting in mass strandings. Almost a year ago, a similar event involving pilot whales occurred on another Scottish island. At least 55 whales died or were euthanized in that one. And the Labor Department reported last week that the job market remains strong here in the U.S. Despite somewhat comforting data, some workers are taking on a side hustle to meet ends meet. NTD's Andrew Thomas spoke with Bankrate, which found that more than a third of Americans have a second gig.
Americans are turning their hobby, passion, or second skill into a side hustle. Bankrate reports that 36% of people surveyed said they have another job to supplement their income.
Back in 2017, only 19% of Americans were side hustling. Now it's about double that. That says a lot about the state of the economy. People are feeling that one job is not enough anymore.
What Americans are spending their side hustle income on has changed slightly since last year.
The most common use for this side hustle money is spending money. Discretionary expenses are number one. That's actually a flip from last year when it was day-to-day expenses. Day-to-day expenses are a very close second this year.
Bankrate found that only 31% of side hustlers save some of what they make. Only a fifth of respondents used the extra income to pay off debt. Rossman expresses a bit of concern at this data.
I admire the extra work people are putting in. I would like to see more people getting ahead, though, in the form of more savings, more investing, more debt payoff, especially something like credit card debt, which has a very high average interest rate of about 21%. Most people are side hustling to pay the bills.
What are the pros and what are the cons of having a side hustle these days?
The pros are definitely coming up with extra money. I mean, this is meaningful. If you take that $900 a month or so on average that people are earning, that ends up being more than 10 grand over the course of the year. So that's definitely a meaningful chunk of change.
While a side hustle, by definition, is not enough to live on, Rossman sees value in it.
I used to want to be a sports announcer, and I ended up doing a side hustle for a while, writing part-time for a fantasy sports website. And it was fun. I mean, I made some extra money, but I did it mostly because I liked it. And I thought that if I ever wanted to go full-time into sports, this was a way to build some experience and meet some people.
More than half of side hustlers Bankrate surveyed have been moonlighting for 2 years or less. That includes 24% of respondents that have been working a second gig for less than 1 year. Getting back to the cons, Rossman recommends not losing sight of the bigger picture.
Overall, there's a lot to like about side hustles. You just need to be mindful about the inputs as far as time, energy, materials, gas. I mean, some of these are very time and labor and materials intensive, and others are not.
The good news? Side hustlers are making more than they did last year. Bankrate found that the average side hustler made around an extra $890 per month, up from $810 in 2023. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The golden days of summer, when plants, bushes, and trees offer up abundance in the form of juicy tomatoes, strawberries, apples, and more. Many city dwellers opt to pull these goodies off of shelves instead of picking them off vines. But cities like Philadelphia are taking a different approach, boasting over 400 community gardens. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society about these hidden gems.
Adam Hill is the director of community gardens at the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. He says plot gardening is the most popular among city dwellers.
Each family or person will have like a bed or like a, an area that's theirs to manage as they like to grow, food or flowers for their family. And then there's also like, more kind of common areas.
There are also some communal gardens where everyone shares the harvest.
In any city, green space is at, a premium, and a lot of neighborhoods don't have it. So like a lot of times a community garden is the green space in the neighborhood. It is the park. It is the everything. And, I really see it, and PHS sees it as these are like essential community infrastructure where people come together and grow food and feed themselves and be together with their neighbors and build community.
The community garden director says food is a major motivator.
People do eat better when they are growing their own food. They eat stuff that they can afford. They eat stuff that they want to eat that they might not be able to find at the grocery store. They're practicing self-reliance and kind of just like fending for themselves a little bit. And I think that's really powerful too.
Hill discusses other benefits of the urban green spaces.
Social connections, just interacting with other people. Then like just gardening, is so important for your health and well-being and getting outside, getting fresh air, getting physical activity and exercise.
Philadelphia has a diverse population. Many have roots in Southeast Asia or Africa. One garden that has many participants of different origins is called Growing Home Garden.
It's almost 400 raised beds, so like hundreds of families growing there. There's 5 different language groups. It's like Chen, Karen, Swahili, Nepali. It's kind of cool. And it's chaos at times, and it's like it's difficult, but it's also people come together over food.
The garden grows a variety of colorful vegetables, from African eggplant to Indian mustard greens and bitter melon. Hill says the city is creating a healthier population through these fresh vegetables by running a food as medicine program.
We're giving them like a fresh food box every week and helping them cook and kind of get them acclimated to eating fresh vegetables. And we've seen like big benefits in terms of their health outcomes through that as well.
In the heart of summer, Philadelphia's 400-plus community gardens flourish, offering a bounty of fresh produce and fostering community spirit. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And another inspiring story, an amazing annual competition highlighting photography of the heavens has just dropped their cream of the crop finalist images ahead of the ultimate round of judging. Check it out.
Spectacular, mystifying, out of this world. There's simply no other way to describe the amazing images representing the shortlist of finalists in the 2024 Astronomy Photographer of the Year competition. Put on by the Royal Observatory Greenwich in London, the competition is in its 16th year and saw more than 3,500 entries from nearly 60 countries. The ones you see here represent the cream of the cosmic crop, vying for the top honors in the final round, and were captured using a combination of amazing tech and incredible talent. Like this time-lapse capture of the International Space Station in transit across the moon as seen from Australia, or this dragon-shaped aurora giving off intergalactic Game of Thrones vibes as it loomed large over rock formations in Iceland, or this composite of the sun, which is impressive enough before you spot the wisp of coronal activity that gave it its name, a whale sailing the sun. Finalists will be assessed by an expert panel of judges from the worlds of art and astronomy, and winners in multiple categories along with the top spot will be announced on September 12th, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all winners in my book. Well, this last image isn't up for an award, but maybe it should be. NASA's intrepid James Webb Telescope beamed back the image of what looks like a giant diamond ring in the cosmos, but is actually a large amount of gas and dust in a galaxy's black hole called a quasar. This easy-to-read diagram shows how the galaxy bends the quasar's light so we Earthlings can see it and all its pretty parts from 6 billion light years away. It's a jewel of an image, but the name quasar doesn't exactly shine. I'm thinking Deep Space Diamond has a much better ring to it.
All right, well, thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. Have a nice weekend.